Okay, we qualified for the playoff, and I wanted to give Mono Blue Storm some more reps to see if it was still as good as it felt. Only changes I made was swapping the flex slots to a single Words of Wisdom to beat Random Guy's Blessing. Words of Wisdom, of course, still draws cards, so not the worst when you randomly draw it for your game A plan, and same thing with Repulse. Kind of liked it as just a kind of random way to bounce a Cloud of Fairies for net neutral mana and draw a card if you have two rocks in play, and also just a differently named thing to get with Merchant Scroll to bounce a Meddling Mage in case there is a Meddling Mage, of course, naming Snap. Yeah, Storm should still be good against mid-range and control. I predict it to be bad against red. Made some tweaks to the sideboard, like the idea of like somewhat of a diversified bounce package. Realizing now that Hydroblast and Arcane Denial are kind of redundant because you kind of use Arcane Denial to protect your rocks from disenchants and stop Armageddons, and Hydroblast really just protects you from Blue Blast and once again protect your rocks from like disenchant, overload, shatter effects. So moving forward, I'm probably going to look to play but both of these, or just kind of reduce this little bit of redundancy, because can just imagine a situation I'm playing against red deck. I'm like, oh, I want to Hydroblast them. It's like, well, I also could just Arcane Denial most of the same cards and it not be that big of a deal. Obviously, Hydroblast gets lackey, but look at how much space it's taking on the sideboard. It's taking up a huge chunk of the sideboard. Rest is good. I didn't think to change the Lotus Petals before I registered for this league. For a deck that wants to hit 3 lands, 18 is criminally low. But, whatever. Just let it ride. So, yeah, that's Storm, and we'll see how we do. All right. We are going to do a playback of my round 1 of the Showdown. I played this while my wife was sleeping, so didn't want to talk too loud. So yeah, round 1 against Cyberpunker. This is going to be the round of 16. We know we're playing against Madness, and we're on the draw. And we keep a hand that basically just has what it needs to get going, just one rock away. And I know that resolving this Helm of Awakening is kind of like a big deal, even though Stanley's deck can capitalize on the mana generation of Helm Awakening. Beggars can't be choosers, right? So, I've got the Helm, I've got the Meditate. I'm definitely going to be threatening to go off relatively quickly, and if Stan doesn't put pressure on me, then the game's going to be a done deal. Stan talked to me after the match. He thought on this turn that I was playing Mono Blue Dreadnought, so he was pretty tunnel visioned on getting this Survival of the Fittest on the board. So I surprised him a bit with the Helm of Awakening play. So yeah, contemplating cantripping, but at this point, slamming Helm and hoping that things go good is kind of my plan. And then of course, Helm reduces future Sapphire Medallions so that my investment into my next combo turn just starts at 1 mana. And also I can just put Stan in tricky positions where he needs to tap out to put pressure on the board, but if he does so, then he can't counter the medallion, and then I can get cooking. I can draw multiple medallions and threaten them. So overall, felt pretty solid, and of course, Survival of the Fittest is already forcing Stan to use green mana. So ultimately, while the Helm reduces some of his costs, it doesn't reduce stuff like Careful Study, Counterspell, Basking Root Walla. This Arrogant Worm, of course, is a miss because he had to use that Careful Study for the land drop, and all the green mana he sinks into Survival. And we've got Snap access, which is great for slowing things down. So I feel pretty good about jamming this turn 2 Helm. And, of course, we're crazy lucky getting this accumulated knowledge off of accumulated knowledge. It kind of just doesn't get better than that. Little 2 mana net divination, but it makes all our future AKs super, super strong. So just going to pass it to Stan. He'll probably do some survivaling and it's up, but he doesn't. So it signifies that he was holding up Counterspell on that turn, potentially guarding against my turn 3 win potential, but I, of course, didn't have it. Had no reason to go for it with no pressure. I pretty much am going to know when I'm on my last turn or second to last turn. It's a huge advantage of this deck is that I can afford to be patient, use my mana wisely, and not run into counter spells when I don't have to. So we're just going to continue to play patient, play the waiting game. Although I do think there wasn't too much harm in just jamming AK on Stan's end step. If the play's counterspell, I can't be too mad at that, but I've got a pretty mana heavy hand. So from this point, after drawing the Lotus Petal, it definitely does feel like prioritizing card advantage and resolving card advantage is important while I have like plenty of mana and I can probably just go off even without the second mana rock, which is kind of sweet. And reiterating, not a lot of pressure here and plenty of breathing room to continue sculpting until the opportunity emerges. And yeah, with Stan missing his fourth land drop, it's also kind of crucial where he's just farther away from being able to cast double counterspell. I'm getting to a point where Daze doesn't really get me, and I'm just kind of relatively unbothered, relatively relaxed. And this one of Repulse is actually going to end up being sick, right? Because Stan just put an Arrogant Worm in his hand. He's going to spend an entire turn casting it. Again, Survival of the Fittest, there's no disruptive creature in Stan's deck to like deal with stack combo, right? I can't even like think of one that he could possibly get that would interact favorably with Storm combo. There's a possibility that he could play cards like Vigilante and Uktabia Orangutan to interact with my mana rocks, but of course that's pretty narrow for the Madness deck, so he's not going to. And here I'm just setting up for this kind of blowout end of turn repulse your Arrogant Worm, and even have the option to run it back with the snap as well. So even against an endless stream of Arrogant Worms, Stan's just too choked on mana to really put reasonable pressure on me to finish the game. So yeah, we're going to stick this repulse. And this Merchant Scroll is also going to mean that the AK for 3 is coming, and also at a extreme discount. And there's just like a number of things that I can do to exploit. I have the option to go for end of turn meditate, to set up to go crazy. I can continue to play slow. So plenty of options here and pretty firmly in the driver's seat. You know, notably Stan has 10 cards in hand, but none of them are lands. So we're just happy to keep taking 2 a turn until we eventually put ourselves in a position where we can just shove for the win. It's funny though that we're Stan's hand sizing to all 4 Root Wallas, so obviously not the worst spot to be in, especially if it represents counter spells. But yeah, we're just gifted with unlimited accumulated knowledge. So at this point, I can pretty easily think about jamming. Right now, our hand, even if random stuff gets countered, there's Merchant Scroll, AK, or just like AK for 3, Lotus Petal, Snap. You know, if we draw a Cloud of Fairies, if we draw like whatever, it's just like so close to just having enough spells for double Brain Freeze. So I think what I'm planning on here is just a hand that doesn't have to really draw anything in order to go off. So I want to start by Merchant Scrolling for the second copy of Brain Freeze, because if Stan bites on the Merchant Scroll, then I have to start drawing cards. But if he doesn't bite on the Merchant Scroll, then I can just count out my spells and just like double Brain Freeze, right? So I've got five Storm, so it'd be like 13 copies of Brain Freeze, which is already 1 Storm off. So if Stan casts a single spell, if he counters a single one of my spells, then my Brain Freezes are going to be lethal. So that time I did have to count Storm. I've been pretty loose with this deck. I've just been not counting Storm all the time. And yeah, of course, Stan just bites with the counter spell, and I have enough mana to cast my entire hand. So it's going to be relatively easy from here to get my Storm count up and keep enough mana open for double Brain Freeze. So a free counterspell on this snap. Stan obviously doesn't know my mana situation. I think it'd be really loose to snap here, but a free counterspell on the snap would have been disruptive enough to stop what I was doing. And a free counterspell on this meditate would look really good here, but of course I know that I'm well over the storm count that I need with just one more spell. So brain freezing for almost the minimum. I needed to do 7 plus 6. I'm doing 8 plus 9. So 17 copies of brain freeze. And of course, we're running them out one by one. Take a peek at what Stan's got going on. And we see that he's running Daze. See that he's running Wasteland. Gilded Drake obviously going to get sideboarded out. And a really sweet deep analysis that we haven't seen in Stan's list before. So that's pretty exciting for me. I'm hyped to see the deep analysis. It's kind of like the 5th copy of Squee, basically. So moving into sideboarding, the blue-green deck pretty much resists purely in the form of counterspells and pressure. So, and also artifact removal. So there's plenty of consideration here. These arcane denials coming in to counter naturalize or disenchant effects is something that I've been sort of interested in, especially when your opponent has both naturalize and counterspells. Like if they just have counterspells, then you kind of just try to navigate so that you can like get the rocks down in front of the counterspells. But if they have naturalizes, then you kind of like want to hold your rocks and wait for your opponent to tap out. But yeah, with naturalize and counterspell, your opponents are kind of never going to tap out to give you a clean opening to just get mana rocks on the battlefield. And from that point, it becomes at least interesting to have Arcane Denial around to put down a mana rock, Arcane Denial targeting, the first disenchant effect after you cast something. Another common play pattern with Storm deck is to resolve your mana rock and then cast your sorcery speed meditate with maybe a few mana around and cast a bunch of instants in response to the naturalize. So these are all both play patterns I've explored. I decided to not get too fancy and just board in a couple of counters. I'm not going to be too unhappy to counter an Arrogant Worm if it sets his clock back, although I do have to be relatively careful to not draw him into more resistance. So looking to just use Arcane Denial defensively here. And Stan's going to mulligan down to 6 and open on an island. I'm going to have a pretty easy time here, just developing my mana. Something I've been thinking about is like trimming Lotus Petals for lands. This deck has to hit 3 lands, right? And it opens a lot of 1-landers running 18 lands. You don't have a lot of land redraws because we don't like run cards like Sleight of Hand or whatnot. Stan missing a 2nd land drop there. But you also don't want a lot of lands to draw into during your storm turns. So it's an interesting balance. Lotus Petals are obviously decent to keep things going during storm, but they also are super underwhelming outside of your storm turn. So, and there's a lot of places where you wish to lands. So I don't know if that means 20 lands and 2 Lotus Petals, 0 Lotus Petals. It's all very interesting. What's nice is that Lotus Petal does help your aggressive meditate. It gets them out of your hand so that you don't go to hand size. And but yeah, I'm sweating my hand size here. It's kind of not a bad place to try to jam meditate. I didn't really want to jam meditate into Daze because with Stan's mana screw, letting him use Daze advantageously is sort of not where I want to be. But I'm also like a little meditate flooded where I want to hit these land drops. Obviously, I've got plenty of Frantic Search too. I want to hit these land drops, but I also don't want to give Stan the time to climb back into this game. So a little bit annoying that I can't cast anything proactively. There's some world in which I could cast a proactive Frantic Search, but it seems kind of iffy. And this Merchant Scroll is pretty much going to go straight into an AK, or at least I'm thinking to send the Merchant Scroll straight into an AK. But yeah, I'll use the Frantic Searches to filter through some cards and sit around for a little while. Watching this back, I think the discard should be definitely Frantic Search and possibly Repulse. But just kind of have to evaluate if I have more mana or more cards or more time. And Repulse is just a little bit better for grindy, and since I'm not facing that much pressure, I'd have to worry a little bit less about mana, especially because this turn is going to involve a Merchant Scroll for an AK that's going to AK for 2. So I've got tons of value, and I'm just happy to play a value game. And would have preferred to just hit this land drop naturally than to have to burn a Frantic Search, which burned an additional Frantic Search. But again, we're just not really seeing mana as the limiting factor here. So happy to play a slow game. Stan gets in for 1, doesn't find his 3rd land drop. So he continues being short on pressure. And I continue to be really good at finding lots of copies of Accumulated Knowledge and Merchant Scroll. So all of the free Basking Root Walla from cleanup steps that you want are probably not going to save you from me just drawing 3 extra cards. And yeah, this repulse in my hand is feeling like a warm blanket. It just means that Stan's never going to be able to apply too much pressure. But, notably I don't have any mana rocks hanging around yet. So I am sort of in the mana rock waiting room. And maintaining my hand size has also kind of pretty funny here. But happy to just make land drops and sculpt a perfect hand. Here I think it's probably good to contemplate what the most efficient hand would be. So Stan's representing at most sort of 1 or 2 pieces of interaction in the form of a free counterspell and a paid counterspell or a naturalize effect. And I'm sort of not sure if I'm sort of in a mana or card situation. But one of the things that I'm sort of interested in, and I love the spot that this puts my opponent in, it's just like going for a possible end step meditate. Obviously, I'm like super scared of just like going to clean up with like a trillion cards, If he just counters the first mana rock or counters the Frantic Search or whatever, I'm going to go to clean up and potentially lose a lot of value to my cleanup step. But in spots like these, it's kind of interesting to be like, okay, well, I'm going to meditate. So what do you want? Like 4 cards and then you get your next turn? Or do you want to use your mana on the counterspell? And then I get to untap and, do whatever I want after you've countered this and tapped out to counter this. So puts their opponent in a situation where they really can't, like neither option is particularly appealing to them. And yeah, of course, with Stan just like discarding to clean up, it's not too scary with the amount of pressure. But yeah, Obsolete at Resolve, and we find all the rocks in the world. So we should just be able to rock through protection. We've got Frantic Search already ready for us, and double counterspell, Merchant Scroll, just like all the goods. So prepping this turn for a sequence of Helm of Awakening, counterspell, Helm of Awakening again, Frantic Search, and then just double Brain Freeze is just going to lock it out. Just like don't really have to put too much effort into finding a fine land this turn. And then yeah, with the potential of triple Brain Freeze, I almost just don't have to do any work. So from here, Stan could counterspell. I could let the counterspell resolve and play Helm of Awakening, Storm count 3, then triple Brain Freeze, 4 plus 5 plus 6 is 15 copies. So I'd be short. So I need one more spell. But in any case, pretty easy to stick an Arcane Denial here. Get this Helm resolved and just do things the simple way. I kind of like the trying to contemplate if my opponent had a naturalize there, like what the smart thing would have been. But I kind of like the playing Helm, then playing Fairies, and then playing Frantic Search at instant speed in case there's interaction for the Helm. But don't have to think too hard about it because, of course, with Stan's mana situation, it's like totally fine for me. So foil on this Frantic Search is quite good, or days. Oh, okay. So yeah, this basically from this spot, I was like thinking about a lot of things. I was like, I can pay for days. I can cast Cloud of Fairies instead. But I was basically like, oh, this combo turn actually has a fizzle because my opponent is representing a foil here. So the foil is pretty scary. I'm thinking about how to set it up the next turn. But again, with triple Brain Freeze triple Brain Freeze and 7 Islands setting up the next turn would not be difficult. But I did have to think. Notably, didn't cast a Meditate this turn. So, and like I could win even if Stan just has Naturalize or an additional counterspell. So yep, that's what I decided after thinking. And then with the Frantic Search resolving, I was like, oh, that's actually quite simple then. So yeah, pretty simple path to victory. Not much to think about here other than just to go through the motions. And sometimes I just, once again, just like maximizing Storm Count out of paranoia, maybe somehow Stan's going to find a way to survive this turn, and then I'm going to have to get creative, boards in the 2 guys blessings or something like that. But never, not, other than that, just I was like thinking about if I could get away with doing it with 1 brain freeze, or I wanted to like end the turn with 7 cards in hand just in case. Just in case. But yeah, kind of seeing that this version of the deck is obviously super grindy. So any deck that doesn't kill you within the first 4 turns is just kind of going to be kind of like a little bit cold to you. Yeah, I want to get it done with 1 brain freeze. So that's why I'm going through all these motions. But yeah, I was going to win through like 3 pieces of interaction here. So really, I think all that matters for my opponent is having the clock. Just being able to proactively cast Meditate is just super good against any deck that's trying to trade 1 for 1 with you. And while obviously cards, you don't want to see Arcane Lab, right? But the rest of the time, I think you can play a pretty decent game. And yeah, a little bit of nerves. Stan drawing this one out makes me wonder if he has something secret hiding in his library I need to know about, but ends up throwing me the GG. And yeah, has random sorcery speed cave in. I'm not sure what he was thinking with the cave in. But yeah, that's round 1 of the showdown. All right, we are jumping into match 2 of the playoff with Storm. Yeah, playing against Casey. All right. Playing against Casey in match 2 of the playoff. Storm versus, we'll see. Let's get my hand back in here. I think we mull the 1-lander. Lots of upside if we hit the land though. Hit the land, draw a card, snap fairy. Got a little bit of everything in this hand. If it's a grindy matchup, I can Merchant Scroll for AK. And there's a possibility of a forced fast win here. I think I'll try to hit the land on the draw. Seems reasonable. Against Mishra's Factory. Okay, Lotus Petal is not exactly what I want to see, but this normally means black deck or blue deck. I think I'm just going to go for a pretty high risk play here, just because I didn't hit the land, if Magic Online will let me. This is obviously vulnerable to disenchant and opponent putting a 3-drop into play, but I think I'm going to be faster with this hand if I hit my lands. Mishra's Factory Dust Bowl looks like mud. Like it's the mono white control deck. Okay, I'll let them. They're not going to be able to race this, so they're just looking for a disenchant effect pretty quickly. So hopefully I hit a land here. Nope. That's unfortunate. But I'm pretty confident this is a good matchup. They have Sphere of Resistance in the sideboard. I obviously have Hercule's Recall, which is crazy in this matchup. They're just going to run out of cards to play. So this Helm, obviously this Helm was a super boost this turn. But eventually they're just going to get to the point where like all they're doing is like moving Eternal Dragons around. A fast Eternal Dragon can obviously get me, but I still have some recourse with Snap and stuff. Yeah, it's like attack for 2 from here. But yeah, no disenchant is good news. Okay. Can't imagine Merchant scrolling for anything other than an AK here to just go for another land. And because all I need is like 1 more land, and then I can Ritual, start the turn with 5 mana, go down to 2 mana, no, go down to 3 mana, go down to 1 mana. Yeah, I just need lands. I'm pretty sure the Meditate's going to find me the Medallion, and then from there we're going to be good. Guess I didn't need to cast that right away, but it's all good. Okay, so if my opponent buys back Eternal Dragon here, I'm super happy, obviously. They choose not to. And obviously I'm very unhappy if they manage to. But like I'm just going to value Meditate from here, right? Yeah, just cast a monster, it's fine. Decree for Angels is obviously good. Let's see if they attack here for 2. Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm going to go for it here just because I have 7 mana, and the Meditate, and I feel like I'm just going to be able to get there. And my rock isn't going to be around forever. I can take 1 more draw step just to have another mana, but I feel like there's no point in... yeah, I only see 1 more card, right? And if I find another Brain Freeze, this might just be enough. So we're going to cast Cloud of Fairies. We're going to cast Cloud of Fairies. There's a world in which I snap the Eternal Dragon, so I'll probably just start with Meditate here. Look for that other rock too as well. Okay, let's keep making mana. But this is lethal, and I also missed a mana. But after all is said and done, I'm gonna have more than enough for the double brain freeze through this merchant scroll. Just gotta not screw it up. Okay, 3 mana. So 3 mana to combo. So I just need 3 mana remaining. So I have 3 mana for Dirtling. Take a look at my storm count. Okay. But yeah, opponent is just going to give me unlimited time, and I'm pretty sure their only interaction is Richmond Port, and Humility is a funny one, and Sphere of Resistance out of the sideboard. But yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah, this is just Thursday stacks, Thursday white control. So deck is just going to be too slow, I think, to keep pace with me. And yeah, I don't know, should I do anything else? I've cast a lot of meditates. Could have like Snap Merchant Scroll or whatever. Curious what they have. Don't imagine there's any card in white. They have the Last Breath main deck. Interesting. Wait, pretty trivial. Eternal Dragon, Mishra's Factory, Curse Scroll. Okay, so we do not have to go hard on mana. So I'm going to do something that I haven't done before, which is board out Lotus Petal. So what's weird is that opponent's deck is like not an Armageddon deck, even though it looks like one, and it runs all these rocks. Okay, so I don't expect this to be a very mana intensive game. So I'm going to board out the Lotus Petals and Cloud of Fairies and bring in Deep Analysis so that I just hit all my land drops forever. Repulse doesn't matter. I can see Arcane Denial coming in to protect my mana rocks, but honestly that also doesn't feel like it doesn't matter. So like playing Arcane Denial against like a singular disenchant, just who cares, right? I'm only going to need 1 rock to win. So yeah, I'm going to skip the counter magic, I think. I mean, it's always decent to like hedge like random counter spells in case they do have something super good, but it's like I'll have this in the possibility of Armageddon or something. But yeah, the rest just feel solid. Just have to hit my land drops and we'll be fine. Even that Lotus Petal actually ended up mattering the last game as a mana source, but it's fine. All right, we have lands. We have a value meditate coming, so should all be good. We have Medallion. And yeah, this is definitely be a game where I'm just not going to expose any mana rocks for more than I have to, but also since opponent plays just completely face up, I don't have to worry about it. Although I will want to cast this Medallion in hopes of outplaying this Sphere of Resistance, but I could obviously also just wait until Hurkyl's Recall. I mean, if they have Port, things get at least a little interesting. Or if I draw the 4th land, obviously I'll just relax. Helm for 2, Helm for 3, Medallion for 2. I mean, this just catches the first disenchant no matter what, but yeah, and I drew the 4th land, so opponent not clocking me. As long as I have land drops, I'm just going to keep passing. And then obviously my meditate is going to come down pretty quick. My opponent could obviously choose to just start attacking for 4. Okay, Port is kind of relevant. Really want to draw Hurkyl's Recall now. Kind of would be a crazy setup. I think Rushing River might be fine. Like, I really don't care about Sphere of Resistance because I only need 1 thing in play to get the business going, but it's fine. Okay, now I'll play Medallion. If they spend 3 mana, then they're not going to get any damage in, and they're not going to port me. So, like, obviously they have Disenchant, but I have the Helm of Waking back up, and I need to get stuff out of my hand so I can start casting Meditate and stuff. Yeah, a little 3 mana Abolish. Love to see it. I think I'm happy to cycle this AK, even though I could have always just chilled. And then, yeah, Hurkyl's is nuts. So I'm just set up to wait and chill. Instant speed, artifact destruction is going to be a thing. So, you know, obviously not ideal, but it's all good. And if I can catch them on a double factory attack, then obviously Hurkyl's is going to be completely nuts. Okay, Temporal Aperture basically doesn't matter. And in fact, kind of a nombo with Sphere Resistance. No attack, so they have the fear. Okay. Just gonna pass and pitch this Deep Analysis. Some consideration for cycling Cloud of Fairies, but I already have 2 brain freeze, so I can just go off sort of whenever. Opponent plays the plains. Circles recall. It's just waiting for the perfect time. Opponent has the fear. Could cycle this cloud. I don't have the land drop. I'm gonna flashback deep analysis. Really am not compelled to do anything. This looks like a Decree of Justice turn. So they're gonna put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tokens into play. 5 tokens will be a reasonable clock. 5 tokens kind of looks like a 2-turn clock. So yeah, so it'll be like they tap out, they start putting the beatdowns in. Kind of need that land drop and that second second rock. So I think cycling the Cloud of Fairies is okay, especially because I don't need to gas my storm count too much up with like a bunch of draws and double brain freeze. So I feel like this feels fine. Ooh, and punished for not going for the cycle earlier. Ooh, double punished. Okay, so this isn't like the best spot ever. Really want to land. Yeah, I really want to land. Because if I get a land, then I can Hercules at the end step and go for it. Go. The thing is, all of these cards are completely busted. Like, can you imagine that I'm just going to be pitching oh wait, no, I have 7 cards in hand. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, almost perfect hand to be going for it with. Yeah. So some sort of disenchant effect at instant speed is going to potentially create problems for me, but nothing I can do about that unless, of course, I could always draw into the second rock. But yeah, that second Cloud of Fairies kind of wanted the mana. Animate, get in for 9. They correctly tap their Mind Stone. Okay, 2 cards in hand. Could be good ones. Can technically afford to, can't afford to meditate aggressively. So the first card I have to cast is actually Frantic Search, which is fine. I can live with that. Okay, so we can go for Helm. Frantic Search, yeah. Abolish for mana. Try to find another Helm. Okay, pitch AK plus Merchant Scroll, untap 3 lands. Flashback Deep Analysis doesn't put me dead. They're going to redeploy their goods. So can I just go for a mini Brain Freeze here? Try to set up another Brain Freeze. I can Merchant Scroll for AK, draws 2 cards. I can Merchant Scroll for Brain Freeze to try to set up a second double Brain Freeze turn. I haven't played a land yet, so if I Deep Analysis in a land, I can go Deep Analysis, land, Brain Freeze, and then try to just do it the normal way. Oh no, I can only go Deep Analysis into Brain Freeze. I guess I needed to save the Sapphire Medallion. Their double Abolish could have always been live though. Rishton and Port also got some good value off me. Okay, so we're just looking for our next rock to try to start the turn with a rock. That's our sort of only recourse here. Is that. I'll Brain Freeze 15 cards. At least look at how they sideboarded. Oh, I could have scrolled for AK and then started the turn with an AK for 2. Fear Resistance, Phyrexian Furnace, Tormod's Crypt. Funny stuff. Tormod's Crypt can counter a recall, sometimes in Storm decks. But yeah, opponent's just going to attack and deploy Sphere of Resistance, and then that'll be that. So I had the answer for Sphere of Resistance. I just didn't prep for the turn correctly. Like, I just needed to hold all my rocks, right? And then I'll play the full. Protecting the rocks is clearly good. It's misevaluated that. So I'll play bounces. I'll play Arcane Denials. Like, my opponent didn't do anything fancy here. They just had 2 copies of Abolish. So, okay. We don't need... Words of Wisdom is obviously always okay. Don't need Words of Wisdom. Don't need Deep Analysis. Bring in a couple more of these. More Arcane Denials. And then... Well, Rushing River will be fine. Don't need Deep Analysis entirely. Deep Analysis isn't very good against... Sphere of Resistance is the problem. It's like I have to get up to 5 lands to get there. So it's a little bit sketchier. Okay. Just need lands. This hand is great. I mean, I got 2 medallions. I think I'm just going to run them out. And my opponent's main form of interaction that they showed me was Abolish. Like, not even Disenchant, but Abolish. Like, if they want to discard planes to abolish my Sapphire Medallion, like, I will let them. One thing that I've noticed about myself is that I'm not, like, fully aware of my potential when casting Merchant Scroll. Like, I'm not like thinking about my Merchant Scroll options often, so should probably do that a bit. In for 2, beat down plan, only plan they have. Okay, scrolling for AK, totally acceptable plan from here. Surely we'll start drawing islands. Opponent's Eternal Dragon Island starting to work. Get in their second attack, 4 cards in hand. I mean, Abolish is good in that they can at least operate here. I mean, Abolish is good with Eternal Dragon, so maybe there's some angles to it that I hadn't considered. Oh, this is going to be devastating. So feels like the Snap is the worst card here. Thorian Dynamo. Sphere. Sphere would be good. No, Mind Stone. Sphere. Sphere would be crazy. Temporal Aperture. Okay. I do have to hit land drops. This is a necessary thing for me. Not getting to 3 lands is bad. Yeah, I think I want to play 20 lands. I should have thought before submitting. I want to play like 20 lands and just fewer Lotus Petals. Lotus Petals just don't feel like they do anything. Let's see if we favor Temporal Aperture activations over Mishra's Factory attacks. Looks like not. I mean, 3 mana draw card is better than 5 mana draw card, right? Opponent 4 cards in hand. Pretty good, but they didn't find an answer to the Sapphire Medallion. Should I scroll for AK this turn? Scroll AK. So scroll AK is 2 mana. Then I can Cloud of Fairies if I hit the land. From Cloud of Fairies, I can Frantic Search. Scroll AK, Cloud of Fairies. So AK for 3. And then I can Frantic Search into Sapphire Medallion. So let's scroll AK. We really need to find an island, obviously. Oh my god. I don't even need these Meditates, right? Ditch a scroll. I'm going to scroll an AK for 4. And at that point, I got to win. Don't need Meditate at that point. Going to want the Frantic Search. Literally going to pitch 2 Meditates. So scroll, AK for 4, Cloud of Fairies, Sapphire Medallion. Okay, consider this. If I just hit the 3rd land naturally, then there's a possibility that I hit the 3rd land naturally. I don't really want to give up this Meditate. Don't really want to give up Frantic Search. Don't really want to give up Cloud. But Cloud is like much worse than Frantic Search, right? Opponent still hasn't put pressure on us, so let's just keep the most value in our hand as possible. And then like just not stress. But things are getting awkward, don't get me wrong. And then of course there's a Seal of Cleansing, so opponent getting a Dust Bowl around. Please? Holy shit. This is a long time to go without an island. Opponent going for the Decree for 6. It's going to close out the game quite fast. We hit the island. I don't think there's a world in which I can sandbag the Sapphire Medallion, but the last Disenchant effect is almost guaranteed. But I can go Sapphire Medallion, Arcane Denial, the Disenchant effect. If I'm my opponent, I'm making Angels. Angels are a faster clock, right? I guess Soldiers are the same speed as Angels here. Yeah, they would have made 3 Angels otherwise, but they have to get in with Mishra's Factory, though. That's the good news. Tormod's Crypt doesn't matter here. They do hit the Abolish. This Arcane Denial is, of course, quite bad against Abolish. I'm going to chalk this game up to relatively poor luck. Like, going 23 cards deep and finding this many islands is pretty bad. And then, quite notably, I have no more Merchant Scrolls. So I'm going to have to natty hit. I'm going to have to natty hit all of my Brain Freezes necessary to make this combo turn possible. And I have an extremely high density of lands in my deck. And I pitched 2 Cloud of Fairies. So my 1 mana AK for 4 is obviously amazing. But I'm very likely to start drawing air. And I need to find the second rock pretty quickly. So, or 3 rocks down. And yeah, our opponent is gonna get 2 looks at their next Abolish. Okay, that's a Helm of Awakening at least, so that's good. Pitch Rushing River and Hurkyl's Recall. Oh, they annihilated my AKs, obviously. Didn't think about that. I don't know if this is enough, but it feels like it's enough. There's no way for them to interact with the hardcast Cloud of Fairies, but also 10 plus 11 should be enough, yeah. Okay, felt like a tighter matchup than it should have been, but eventually got the goods. So all's well that ends well. Bit tight, but opponent didn't draw any of their Sphere of Resistance, and Hurkyl's Recall I didn't use, and yeah, interesting stuff. A little temporal aperture for nothing. Okay, we won 2-1. GG's. All right, semis of the showdown. If Cask is playing mono blue again, this could be tight. I've got the triple Merchant Scroll draw, which are gonna all find AKs and then hopefully help me grind out through the Parallax Tides game 1. But it's a Gemstone Mine, so This is, I don't even know what this signifies. It signifies that my opponent's playing a deck with 5 colors. Triple Merge and Scroll is a little bit slow against 5 colors, but the turn 2 Sapphire is going to be good. Oh, luckily, I can defeat life combo with my combo. So I'm just dodging a Naturalize here, but I really have nothing to fear. So yeah, just going to run out the Medallion and hope that my opponent doesn't have one of their main deck artifact or enchantment removals. And life combo can play Blessing because they do need to have an answer to your opponent milling you out. So I'm going to probably play like my opponent has Blessing. So I've got Brain Freeze, Words of Wisdom. This first one can get an AK. It's kind of an interesting spot. I'm also happy to just get a Meditate because I can go Helm Awakening, Frantic Search, Meditate, Frantic Search with the other thing. So getting the Meditates ready would be good, but getting AKs in would also be good. Both are very enticing. I think let's just get the AK train rolling. It's maybe less chunky than Meditate, but I feel like I'm going to draw these Meditates naturally. I can't use these Meditates proactively. And yeah, I'm just going to let my opponent know that we can operate that there. Oh, okay. It's going to use it for some Sylvan Libracing. So yeah, we're just going to let our opponent go infinite. We'll have to see what their technology is for Storm. I have to imagine they're really cold to me, but I mean, they're going to get me if they have, well, they could have gotten me with like About Face, obviously. Should I have been more defensive and considered some snap? Probably not, right? You just don't really expect the About Face to come down. It's like infinite life is enough. You don't want a third part of the combo. Maybe post sideboard, I should be prepared for About Face. Can't imagine you need more than 100 life. All right. Worthy Cause. What is your kill condition? Cask. Black. It's going to be a card I've never heard of, right? Because that's just how Premodern goes. Pay 3 life. Okay, you got it. I have no outs to this, so yeah, guess I should have gotten a snap. It's fine. Forgot about Unspeakable Symbol. All right, so we can just counter Unspeakable Symbol. All right, do we have to be worried about Gaia's Blessing? I feel like you don't, because you wouldn't play Gaia's Unspeakable Symbol and Gaia's Blessing. So I can afford to be slow here, keep in all my creature interaction. I would have only saved 1 turn if I had a bounce spell. Would have tried to go off the next turn with all these AKs. So I just got to be smarter. Just like didn't have Unspeakable Symbol on the list of things that could happen to me. I just assumed that my opponent would just not have anything to do. That's kind of my bad. And Symbol also means the Starlit Sanctum can get me. Symbol also lets a bird win. All right, we just have to counter Unspeakable Symbol, I guess. I have some interaction. I have infinite mana, but nowhere to go. Okay, this is a keepable hand if I had 1 more land. And I might even YOLO this one because it has a pretty fast potential kill. Bottom Frantic Search, bottom this AK. And if I go land, I can draw a pretty crazy amount of cards, make a crazy amount of mana. This AK is going to help me find the 3rd land though, which is important. Just have to get lucky. My opponent with a great start. We are lucky. See what kind of resistance we've got, or if we don't resist at all. Quite the mana base. Black, white, green. Necessary mana base. Okay, we could get a tabby here. Sanctum. So going for kind of a long setup here. Snap, scroll, AK. Is that crazy? It's not that crazy. Slows him down considerably. And I'll be able to scroll for the next AK. I just want to hit land drops. Although I feel like maybe it was worth it just to keep 1 Words of Wisdom in my deck for the potential of Gaia's Blessing. But I keep on doing this thing where I just like take dumb risks because I'm on camera, I think. Got the Repulse, which is nice. My opponent had a Living Wish for a land drop, so this feels pretty good. Yeah, and they're continuing to miss land drops. I feel like I can just play this Pawns a game. Not a bad spot for me. I only drew my 2nd land, but my opponent only drew even fewer lands. Okay. Think we're just gonna go for the kill here through any potential artifact removal or whatever. yeah, meditating, frantically searching some more, adding more mana, Cloud of Fairies-ing, frantic searching, snapping, doing the things, frantic searching again, and just gonna go for the double brain freeze here, and hopefully my opponent doesn't have Guy's Blessing. I have a Arcane Denial for the potential shenanigans, but yeah, I mean, I really should have been. I mean, there's just no chance they have Blessing, right? They have so much stuff. They have a Living Wish sideboard. They've got Squee and nonsense. Like, there's no Blessings in my opponent's deck. There's just no way. There's just no way. It's not happening. We're not getting blessed. We are getting blessed. Okay, I didn't. I don't have my Words of Wisdom. Fine, just assumed. Bad assumption. GG's. I mean, I can try attacking for 1. All right, that wraps up a pretty disappointing showdown loss with Storm. I had my opponent covered with Words of Wisdom in my deck. Of course, all you have to do is just brain freeze out all the blessings and then Words of Wisdom them all away. I had more than enough resources to do it, and I just didn't have Words of Wisdom in my deck, so I couldn't take that line. Pretty common thing for me to just call out a thing that I could lose to and then refuse to take the necessary steps to beat it. Probably just playing too fast or not thinking enough, but yeah, remember that life combo plays Guy's Blessing sometimes. You know, if you have infinite life, you still need a way to loop around. I think that Blessing is kind of a funny thing, because if you're doing Blessing against like a control deck that's trying to mill you out, then they'll probably have counter spells. But yeah, you know, boneheaded mistake, and paid the price for it. So overall, still loving the Storm deck, and you know, would happily keep playing it. So yeah, I mean, beating Survival Menace was kind of cool. Prison was kind of a walk, and yeah, this matchup should have gone a lot easier. My opponent with just Naturalize as Disruption, I could just, you know, counter the thing that kills me, which is just the copies of Unspeakable Symbol, and then otherwise just always have the window to combo as usual. So that's Storm. That's Storm, baby.